So this is the DJI RS3 Mini. We're gonna do a full review of this and I'm gonna tell you how I immediately made this thing better. It's got a lot to do with this mediocre mounting plate. So let's get right into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Desmond. I make content about tech, travel, and camera gear, and we are talking all about one of the most popular new mini gimbals. This is the DJI RS3 Mini. And you can kind of tell why this thing is so popular. Honestly, it looks really sleek, but what you're gonna see here is my A7R5 with a 35mm 1.4 G Master perfectly balanced on this little gimbal. But this gimbal has its problems, and a lot of it has to do with the mediocre mounting options that this gimbal, and honestly a lot of other gimbals, especially ones of this size, face. So in this video, I'm gonna do a quick run through and review of the gimbal itself. Then I'm gonna talk about how I actually fixed the problem that I see with a lot of these gimbals and the thing that holds most creators back from using a gimbal pretty regularly. So let's just jump right in. I'm gonna go ahead and remove this camera, and you can already start to tell some of the improvements I made to it. But before we jump into that, let's talk about the gimbal itself. First of all, take a look at this thing. This thing is super tiny, it is light. DJI says this is 1.75 pounds. This thing feels great in the hand, and for something that can hold a payload of up to 4.4 pounds, and to put that into perspective, that is an A7, R5, R4, A7 IV with a 24mm to 70mm 2.8 G Master, the old version, not the new lighter version. So that alone is really impressive. Prior to this gimbal, I was using the Zhiyun Crane M3, which is again another great tiny gimbal. I was able to balance my FX3 with a 35mm G Master on it with a 20mm. It was useful, but honestly, it had a lot of problems and it was not as powerful as I'd like. This particular gimbal solves for a lot of that. So what does this gimbal have to offer? Again, it's a gimbal, so nothing particularly special, right? It's got Bluetooth shutter control. The nice thing is if you've got a modern camera like the A7R5, the gimbal will be able to pair with this and you can control the recording, you can control some of the other settings directly from the gimbal itself. Another thing that's really nice, especially for those of you that come from a RS type of platform, you're gonna get that third generation RS stabilization algorithm. But honestly, that just means it's DJI's proprietary algorithm that they've perfected to enable super smooth gimbal movements. Another thing that's special about this particular gimbal that is different from others is it allows for vertical shooting. And I'll show how I also get vertical shooting with my solution for the crappy mounting plate that comes with the DJI. And then there's the 1.4-inch full color touchscreen. Not really anything particularly special. You can see your settings, you can change some modes. It's a gimbal, there's nothing crazy about it except for its ease of use. So a few things that I will say about this gimbal, having used it, is balancing is very easy. But if you've used a DJI gimbal before, or even a Zhiyun Crane or any of these modern gimbals, balancing a gimbal these days is very simple. It's 1, 2, 3 levers that you unlock. You move the different axes around until you've got balance, and then you lock it up and you are good to go. What's special about this is just how small this gimbal is and the payload that it can hold. That is the most impressive technological feat of this particular gimbal. So with all of that out of the way, what else can I tell you that you haven't seen on YouTube yet? I don't know. I mean, this thing looks really cool. My Zhiyun Crane was all white, which was interesting, but I love an all black aesthetic, so it looks great. The quality of the buttons feel really nice and premium. With this whole setup, it's very easy to hold in the hand. So that's kind of all the special stuff that I can think of, but let's get into why I think you're really here, which is how do we make this gimbal better? How do we make this more usable and more user-friendly? Because I will say that all of the gimbals that I've used in the past, the mounting options are honestly pretty shitty. So for a gimbal that is this convenient, this small, and this powerful, it kind of sucks that the mounting option is what makes the user experience pretty mediocre. So as you can tell, I'm holding the original mounting plate in my hand because it's not great. let me give you a closer look. So here's the mounting plate. It's pretty big, it's pretty heavy, and you can also tell that this section here, the quick detach element, is pretty thick. And then let's take a look at this. This is the plate that you mount to the bottom of your camera. Yes, DJI says that this is Arca Swiss compatible, kind of, but I'm someone who uses Peak Design accessories. I have a Peak Design travel tripod. I've got a PGY Tech Mantis pod. Things that are Arca Swiss compatible, but use their own proprietary quick detach plates. This is a thick, ugly, and just not great mounting plate to have on a camera like the A7R5. This is my hybrid camera. I use it for photography, I use it for video. So sometimes I have it on a strap, sometimes I have it on a tripod. Sometimes I want it on my gimbal. But this is a terrible mounting plate. And this is not something that I want on my camera all the time. And it's not something that I want to switch on and off of my camera when I want to use the gimbal. And again, I'll just give you a look. Like, look at this thing mounted. It is so thick. And I'm not going to show it to you here, but if you've seen any reviews of the DJI RS3 Mini on YouTube and creators have it mounted on the original, you can tell that huge gap between the camera and the bottom arm. It's just big, it's unsightly, and honestly, I think it detracts away from the overall great user experience that this gimbal could have. So after all that rambling, what is the solution? Just take a look here. I've got my A7R5 mounted on this gimbal, and look, quick detach, I've removed it. I can mount it back on super easy, and not only that, here's a PGY Tech Mantis pod. Mounted on here as well. And here is my Peak Design travel tripod. Mounted on here as well. And that's the user experience that I want, and I think that most of you want. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you what I did. Here is the solution. For about $39, maybe 40 bucks, this is the Ulanzi Falcam F38 mount for the Zhiyun Crane M3. Now, it works perfectly for the DJI RS3 Mini. So what it is a mounting plate that goes right onto the arm of the DJI or your Zhiyun Crane, and it works with Ulanzi's F38 quick release plate system. This thing is perfect because it has the same shape as, say, your Peak Design or your PGY Tech quick release plates, so it works with most of those accessories. As you can see, it was so easy to pop onto my Peak Design travel tripod. I popped it onto this PGY Tech travel tripod. It works with a ton of other accessories, and best of all, I don't have to sacrifice convenience for my gimbal. This one mounting plate works on all of my accessories, which means my gimbal is always an option and I don't have to switch these plates on and off. And I can't tell you how big of a difference that makes for me on a day-to-day, because for maybe a lot of you out there, I am a inconsistent user of gimbals. I like to shoot photos, I use my different tripods, I use my different capture clips and accessories, and occasionally I want to be able to pull out my gimbal and use it for some smooth gimbal shots, shooting some product shots, but it's always such a pain because you have to use the proprietary plate and you have to rebalance everything. It's terrible. But with this new system, with this Ulanzi Falcam F38 mounting plate for the DJI, it's so convenient. It is just as easy as using any of my other tripods, my other accessories, because it just slides right on. It locks right into place. It's even lower profile than the stock crap that you get from DJI. No offense to DJI. Honestly, if you could build a gimbal this beautiful that can handle 4.4 pounds in this size, you couldn't think of a better mounting system. I don't believe that. I think that's BS. So I've solved that for myself. And I think the other question to ask is whether or not this will work in vertical mode. So let's go ahead and remove this. It comes off just as easy as the stock one. So one of the only downsides I will say is that the vertical mode isn't perfect. So I've got the Falcam quick release plate on here. I can actually still get the quick release plate in place, and I can get this mounted and functioning, but the problem is it's not entirely locked. So that would be the biggest draw, is if you really want to use this in vertical mode, you're still gonna have to switch the plate. With that said, I really don't plan on using this in vertical mode that often. I just don't see myself shooting vertical, super stabilized footage of anything particularly special. So for me, I'm gonna shoot everything in the regular landscape mode and maybe cut it vertically for social, but this isn't a deal breaker for me. I like the convenience of being able to swap my camera on in the most commonly used mode, which is landscape, as possible. So I will take that as a huge win. So anyways, like I said, this is definitely the most convenient alternative I have found to using a gimbal. This Ulanzi plate is super useful, and again, just look how easy that was. Just clip it right into place and it's ready to go. I don't have to think about other mounting systems or other mounting options. This is really gonna make this gimbal more usable. All right, that is it. Like I said, there are a ton of videos on YouTube if you want a more in-depth review of the gimbal itself, its functions, its features, its modes. Like I said, it's just a gimbal, so it's pretty standard. My favorite part about this particular gimbal is now that quick release plate from Ulanzi. Anyways, if anyone from DJI is watching, you know you can make incredible products. I don't know why you can't just make a better universal mounting plate that works with all the other things that creators are currently using. Anyways, that's the video. If you guys enjoyed this, hit that like button, subscribe for more content like this. I will catch y'all in the next one.